Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and I am back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today's video is actually part of our Merry Moments video hop. So I am the first up on the hop, and then there are a couple of others after us. Please make sure that you're leaving a comment as you go. We're doing a giveaway for two $50 gift cards, and they'll be drawn from the comments along the hop. Winners will be announced on November 9th. So you have a little bit of time to hop along. So I am using the Lovely Layers Bow and Bow. I just had this I had this idea in my head of like decorating like a little window, and I thought that would be so cute. So I pulled out the what are they? The double stitched ovals, and then just the oval stacks. So originally I cut all of my, my pieces parts from the bow and the greenery. And then here I was like, wouldn't that be cool if it had like a little gold, like inside, like a little gold thing inside the frame. So that is why I cut two different ones, but this actually works better versus a window. It works better if it was like a frame, because then the gold could be like the matte inside. So I didn't end up using it for the card, but I did want to show you how you would create that kind of insert of a frame if you wanted to do it a little bit differently. So since I wanted to do a little window, I'd like decorated on a wall, I went looking in our Merry Moments paper pad for some wallpaper, and I ended up settling on this green kind of like argyle diamond kind of print. And of course, when we have our things outside, they can't be, they have to be colorful outside. So the Let It Snow, I use the stamps, but it does have a coordinating die. I use that one, I think, every winter. It is a little bit older, but it's a oldie but a goodie. So I have cut an oval to the same size as my full-size frame. And you can do the inking and then do the embossing, or you can do the embossing and then do the inking. I choose to do the embossing first and then do the inking because I do like to blend with distress inks, and they stay wet for a longer period of time. So rather than have to mess around with like drying everything down and all of that, I find it easier to just do the embossing first. And I'm just using my same regular white detail embossing powder. I stamped it in our Brilliant White pigment ink. So it's just going to look like we have some pretty little snowflakes falling down outside of our little decorated holiday window. And so I, stamped the one side, did the powder, and then I went back and stamped the other side. So now this is completely covered with the snowflakes, and they're all heat embossed. And then we're going to switch over now to the ink blending. I like blue. I like blue. Blue makes me happy. But you could absolutely mix it up and do your sky a little bit different. You could do it a little bit lighter to make it more of like a daytime scene. But I wanted those snowflakes to be visible. So in order for them to be more visible, I have to have more contrast, and a darker color works better for that. So I covered the whole thing in Salty Ocean, and then I did speed up my camera quite a bit. I do not ink blend this fast. And then I kind of just worked around the outside, adding those layers. So speaking of snow, I live in Ohio, and so they have actually put our first predicted snowfall onto the map. So this weekend, we are supposed to get snow. They're saying, well, they were saying just Sunday, and then they changed it to Sunday, Monday. And then my husband said last night that the weather app on his phone said Monday, Tuesday. But regardless, they're saying like 2 to 3 inches the one day and 2 to 3 inches the next day. And I'm like, then it'll really be here. Like, we'll really have to acknowledge that we're heading into winter, even though we've fallen back and everything else. Like, it's just so blah. Winter's so blah around here. It's just, I know it's a necessary season of life, and I tell myself that about a lot of seasons of life, but I don't like the cold. I don't like driving in the snow. I don't like none of that. So here, now that I'm working out to my lightest color again, I do take this color all over. I feel like it just brightens everything up quite a bit. And then I am going to take just a slightly damp rag and just buff it over the top. You don't want it to be wet because these do react with water and you could end up wiping away some of your ink blending. So I did some spatter of some clean water just to create a little bit of extra texture, and that works because again they react with water. And then I did mix up some Perfect Pearls. I normally have like a little plate I put it in. I couldn't find it for some reason. So I mixed those up and they do adhere with water, so that gives me a little bit of shimmer and shine in the background. And then we're going to move on to the coloring. So this is my frame. It does have the stitching on it, which I think is a fun little detail. I am going to add my darkest color inside the frame. And then on the top and the bottom, I'm just going to add a little bit of darkness. This is going to help give our frame kind of a more round appearance by having the lighter edges be on the fuller sides. I hope that makes sense. Like the long sides are a little bit fuller. So then I am going to blend in with my mid-tone, and again I'm leaving a highlight area around the edges of the frame. I'm using this as kind of like a window frame, but you could use it as a frame for anything. You use it as a frame for a picture, or maybe there's another frame that you have. I know like the sewing hoop that we have, that's be a good way to color that as well. Like, you know, if you were doing the one that had like the finished in frame. So here I have cut the greenery from this set out of two different colors, a very bright green and then like a medium green. And this is just to add a little bit more interest into how everything is sitting together. And so I'm adding my color from the base of the leaves out toward the edges. And then I'm kind of letting the paper be the lightest color. This color, you won't even see. I'm just using it to blend it into the paper. And then for this one, I am still including that YG03 that we had in the first combination. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. But anyway, but then I've moved more towards like a true green. I'm still coloring them the same way with kind of the darkest part where it's connecting to the stem. But this is just going to give us just a little bit of a different look, so that maybe we have like a top layer and a bottom layer. For the bow, I love this bow, and after putting the bow together, it totally reminds me of like a Minnie Mouse bow, which actually Wendy, who's on our design team, did a card, like where she did Minnie Mouse ears and put the little bow on it, which was adorable. It's like a perfect bow for that. We had a Minnie Mouse themed party, not last year, year before. Her 2-year-old, when she turned 2, we had a Minnie Mouse theme party, and so this would be perfect for that. So here I've gone in with my lightest color and marked where my shadows need to be, and now I'm going to go in with my darkest color and put in my shadows. This has the top portion of the bow, the bottom portion, like the base of the actual like tied portion of the bow, and then the tails. It also has this little mini centerpiece. So I'm starting with colored cardstock, which makes my job a little bit easier in order to get everything blended in. But I am making sure with the portion that is on top that I am leaving, a little bit of a gap, so that when it's sitting next to the base layer, I want there to be a gap at the bottom between my darkest colors, because that's going to help lift the bow. I don't think I explained that very well. Maybe once I put it together, it will be easier for me to point out what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the bottom of this bow, that section of bow, being lighter at the edge. So that way, when it comes up against the dark part of the base, it really lifts and looks more 3D. So again, I'm using the lightest color to just kind of blend those in. It's too light to be seen on this cardstock. So did I put it all together? No, I didn't. Not yet. Not time yet. So some of you, if you've been following along with my videos, know I've been keeping my little crafty catcher right next to my glass mat to catch all my garbage. So those little white strips that I'm going to use as the crossbars in my window came right out of that little garbage. It did, because I had trimmed I had trimmed an A2 panel to be just slightly smaller so that I could layer them up. And they were sitting in my little desk trash, and I was like, oh, those will be perfect. So I was like a little raccoon, and I went in there, a little trash panda, and picked out the ones that I already had cut, and it's going to work beautifully. So I'm adhering those into the center, and then I will just trim off the excess. Yeah, I don't think my windows, not all of my windows, have the crossbar. I don't know if that's like a 90s thing or, earlier. Or maybe before that they didn't have, because my house was built in the 90s and it doesn't have any crossbars. But are these the original windows, or were they replaced? That's an excellent question. As a homeowner, I should probably know that, but I do not. So here I've just trimmed them off. And then now I can go ahead and adhere my my actual wood frame, like what would be considered the trim to my little window. And then from there, I did play around with it quite a bit to see like where I wanted to put everything. I was pretty sure I wanted to do it as like a top-down design, but I wasn't like 100% married to it. So, I did play around with it. So I left them in because I think that it's interesting to see, the other ways that things can kind of come together. Because, maybe you want to do something different. So I like to leave those in. Here, I'm just using my mid-tone. I'm just drawing some wavy lines to give the indication of like some wood grain. It's nothing, it's nothing too crazy. So this was the original, was putting the bow at the top, and and then we did so it didn't hang down. It was just like full greenery at the top. And I did not love that. So then I did it more like mistletoe, like where it kind of hung down the window, and then it covered up too much of the window. But I didn't mind that. Then I did it like more at the bottom, like a laurel, and that one wasn't too bad. But it wasn't what I had inside my head. So what I signed up for was to do it as a top design, but I wanted it to kind of frame the window a little bit more. So in order to get that look, I am going to cut apart one of my leaves. Remember, like, you don't always have to use them exactly the way that they came. You can modify it so that it works for whatever design you're working on. So I needed the bow to be down a little bit lower, and you could kind of see the window peeking through. So I did use a section of those leaves to fill that in. And then I have one longer leaf, and then I have a section of two other leaves. So I'm going to adhere these under the the full leaf to just extend that down and really kind of frame that in. And I was much happier with that. So now it's acting as more of like a garland where it's kind of like draped across versus like a mistletoe where there's like a bunch. And then I put the lighter color leaves over top of that. And then I finally settled on a sentiment, but I felt like my crossbars were like a little too stark white. So I did go in with some cool grays and add some shadows to indicate like one was on top of the other. And then I'm going to use these same cool grays to add some shading to my sentiment. Just so it's not just like this stark white. I wanted it to look more of like a little placard or a sign or, something like that. And this is from, because I've been working out of a bucket because there's so many and they're so good. This is from the Simply Stated sentiments, and that is the one that stamps a bunch of sentiments and then cuts them out in a bunch of different shapes and sizes. So I've just been as I'm making my cards, I've just been working through that arrangement, and I gotta tell you, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice to just have them done and stamped. So I adhered my bow, and then I added my my little season's greetings there at the bottom. I am going to pull in the Merry Moments Pearl stickers, and I'm going to add some berries. You don't need to use the pearls for this, because I know like the pearls can be precious. But you could also use like, what is it? The winter greenery has like berries in it. You could die cut, or like a hole punch, you know, just so you could create kind of those little berries and bring that red down a bit. And then I added some shimmer, and I added some white gel pen highlights. And then that's it. That is the whole card. I thought it was super cute with its little, you know, looking out into the snow. I hope that you continue on the hop and make sure you're leaving comments for your chance to win. Thank you so much for stopping by to see me today, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.